My name is Sara S and I'm a junior at Burke High School in Omaha, Nebraska. I've decided to read The Old Curiosity Shop by Charles Dickens. It's the story of a young girl named Nell and her grandfather, or as he is simply called, the Old Man. Nell's grandfather has become severely indebted to a malicious dwarf by the name of Mr. Quilp, who has taken all of the old man's possessions, including his run-down curiosity shop, where Nell and her grandfather have lived for many years. The scene I have chosen to read is the moment in which Nell and her grandfather make their escape from Mr. Quilp and, hopefully, from the old man's debt. The child's heart beat high with hope and confidence. She had no thought of hunger or cold or thirst or suffering. She saw in this but a return of the simple pleasures they had once enjoyed, a relief from the gloomy solitude in which she had lived, an escape from the heartless people by whom she had been surrounded in her late time of trial, the restoration of the old man's health and peace, and a life of tranquil happiness. Sun and stream and meadow and summer days shone brightly in her view, and there was no dark tint in all the sparkling picture. The old man had slept for some hours soundly in his bed, and she was yet busily engaged in preparing for their flight. There were a few articles of clothing for herself to carry, and a few for him, old garments, such as had befallen their fortunes, laid out for them to wear, and a staff to support his feeble steps put ready for his use. But this was not all her task, for now she must visit the old rooms one last time. And how different the parting with them was from any she had expected, and most of all from that which she had oftenest pictured to herself. How could she ever have thought of bidding them farewell in triumph, when the recollection of many hours she had passed there among them rose to her swelling heart and made her feel the wish, a cruelty, lonely and sad though many of those hours had been. She sat down at the window where she had spent so many evenings, darker far than this, and every thought of hope or cheerfulness that had occurred to her in that place came vividly upon her mind, and blotted out all its dull and mournful associations in an instant. Her own little room, too, where she had so often knelt down and prayed at night, prayed for the time which she hoped was dawning now, the little room where she had slept so peacefully and dreamed such pleasant dreams. It was hard not to be able to glance round it once more and be forced to leave it without one kind look or grateful tear. There were some trifles there, poor useless things, that she would have liked to take away, but that was impossible. This brought to mind her bird, her poor bird who hung there yet. She wept bitterly for the loss of this little creature, until the idea occurred to her. She did not know how or why it came to her, that it might by some means fall into the hands of her dear friend Kit, who would keep it safe for her, and think perhaps that she had left it behind in the hopes that he might have it, and as an assurance that she was grateful to him. She was calmed and comforted by the thought, and went to rest with a lighter heart. From many dreams of rambling through light and sunny places, but with some vague object unattained which ran distinctly through them all, she awoke to find that it was yet night, and the stars were shining brightly in the sky. At length, the day began to glimmer, and the stars to grow pale and dim. As soon as she was sure of this, she arose and dressed herself for the journey. The old man was yet asleep, and as she was unwilling to disturb him, she left him to slumber on until the sun rose. He was anxious that they should leave the house without a minute's loss of time, and was soon ready. The child took him by the hand, and they trod lightly and cautiously down the stairs, trembling whenever a board creaked and often stopping to listen. The old man had forgotten a kind of wallet, which contained the light burden he had to carry, and the going back a few steps to fetch it seemed an interminable delay. At last, they reached the passage on the ground floor, where the snoring of Mr. Quilp and his legal friend sounded more terrible in their ears than the roars of lions. They got the door open without noise, and passing into the street stood still. "Which way?" said the child. The old man looked irresolutely and helplessly, first at her, then the right and the left, then at her again, and shook his head. It was plain that she was thenceforth his guide and leader. The child felt it, but had no doubts or misgivings, and putting her hand in his, led him gently away. Thank you very much for your time.